My name's Tom Elliott. I'm a partner engineer here with the sales and advertising team. Today we're going to be talking about the registration plugin. This is a really simple, lightweight form that helps to make a frictionless sign-on for new users. What we found is that the easier you can make the sign-on process, the better the conversion ratio. So the registration plugin allows you to have a single-click, single sign-on for all of your users. The way to plan for the registration plugin is to decide what content you need as part of your application to provide user identification and social context for your app. What you'll find is that a lot of that information is part of the basic profile. This includes information like a user's name, perhaps their date of birth or their location. Any additional information that isn't part of Facebook, you can then include as custom fields on the form, and that will be included in the information that's sent to your application during registration. Generally, there are three different kinds of users. Those who are not logged into Facebook or your website, those who are logged into Facebook but not yet registered with your application, and those who are both logged into Facebook and registered with your application. In the first instance, you can leverage the login button alongside the registration plugin, and when a user comes onto your website, they can click the login button and log in with Facebook, and that will then pre-fill the form for the registration plugin. If the user is already logged into Facebook but isn't registered with your application, then instead of showing the login button text is replaced with the word register, and that will push them straight through into the registration flow. In the final case, where a user is both logged into Facebook and registered with your website, you can subscribe to the login event and decide not to show either of the information there and just put the content in front of them straight away. Now I'm going to walk you through a simple implementation of the registration plugin. As you can see, we have a very simple website. If we look at the code, you can see all we have is a header that says welcome to my website, a div with an ID of fbroot, and a script tag that's loading our JavaScript SDK. First things first, we're going to load the XFBML registration plugin. Now, there are two types of registration plugins, either an iframe or the XFBML. But we're going to use the XFBML today because that provides better customization. Once we've loaded the plugin, we're going to add the custom fields that we like. So here we have name, birthday, gender, location, and email. And next, we're going to tell the plugin where to go when a registration event occurs. So for this instance, we're going to go to the simple echo.php, which will simply echo to the screen any of the request parameters that it gets given. Let's just save that and load up our web page. So here you can see the registration plugin, and it's been pre-filled with the name of my test user, Edward Example, his birthday, his gender, his current location, and his email address. Now, when you click register, you'll be taken through to the registration endpoint as specified in the website. As you can see here, your website has been passed a signed request parameter, and once you've decoded that information, you have access to Edward's name, his birthday, his gender, and the other information that you've requested, along with some additional registration metadata from the plugin itself. Now let's look at adding a custom field into the registration plugin. Jumping back to the code, we simply add a new field to the bottom of the fields list, providing a name, a type, and a description. The description is what's shown to the end user, and the name is the form field that will be passed on to your application. If we save that and reload the page, and you can see that the favorite color is now shown in the registration plugin. So let's go ahead and fill that out. And when we hit register and authenticate the app, you can now see that the color blue is provided as part of the registration array. Finally, let's add some custom validation to that color field. Jumping back into the code, all we have to do is provide an onValidate parameter and pass it the name of a JavaScript function that we'd like to run to validate the input. This function is passed an object whose properties are named the same as the form fields, and the value of those properties is the input from the user. If the function returns a falsy value, it is assumed that validation has occurred successfully, and if you'd like to signal that validation has failed, you should return the name of the field that's failed along with a message to the user. So here you can see we're looking at the color field, and if the user has input a color other than blue, we're going to error and pass them a message. Let's see what that looks like. So let's input the color red and hit register, and you can see the user is presented with the failed verification message. Changing that to blue, click register, and registration should proceed normally. Next, we'll take a brief look at integrating the login button with the registration plugin. Again, we'll start with a very simple website. Jumping into the code, you can see that we have loaded our JavaScript SDK and added a login button. We've used this registration parameter to point the login button towards our registration page, which was the page we were using earlier. Very quickly then, we initialized the JavaScript SDK with our application ID. We're then going to subscribe to the auth.login event. This allows us to run some JavaScript code when a user logs in to Facebook. We're going to use the Graph API to find out if the user is logged in, and if they're not, we're going to run a function called logged out. This is our logged in function. It simply makes a Graph API request to find the first name of the user and appends that to the welcome header. And then finally, here's our logged out function, and all this does is unhide the login button. Okay, so if we save that and refresh the page. So my test user is logged in to Facebook, but is not yet registered with the website. So you can see that the login button has got the text register. Now let's log out of Facebook. Okay, and if we refresh that page, you can see that the button has changed to log in. Now let's log back in with our test user. Reload the page, and when we click register, we'll be pushed through to the same registration page we saw earlier. If we go back to the registration plugin page, you can see that the login button has been hidden and the welcome title has been replaced with the name of our user. The registration plugin has been designed to maximize conversion for your website by creating a frictionless registration process. In order to maximize conversion, you should only ask for the permissions that you need, and you should consider using the login button alongside the registration plugin to show users how easy it is to sign up for your application. If you'd like to learn more about our registration plugin, there's detailed documentation available on our developer site.